Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to another movie review. This is also another late movie review because, as you all know, I have been behind schedule for the past 2 weeks ever since my hike. And I still haven't made a video about the hike, unfortunately, but I really should because it was a really interesting hike. And I still highly recommend it to those who are adventurous, such as myself. Anyway, this film Aladdin, Disney's Aladdin. Um, Let me just tell you that I've watched this film, like the cartoon version of this film, many times. Um, I'm a '90s kid, and I grew up like watching a lot of films in the early 2000s. But of course, a lot of '90s and '80s films as well, because they replay all of those films throughout the years. And Aladdin was always one of those films which really was captivating because it was a Disney movie that focused very much on the romance of an ordinary, guy on the street, so they call a street rat, and a princess of a kingdom. So this is very much every Disney princess film where there is a guy and then the princess falls in love with him. Except in this case, the main difference is the fact that the guy is ordinary. And what I mean by that is, like, I used to watch like Snow White, right? In Snow White, the guy who saves Snow White is a prince. And if you see like Cinderella is ordinary, and then the guy is once again a prince. And then there's a Lion King, where the king, of course, leaves the lands and everything and comes back, but the queen is still part of the same litter, so she is also a prince. A little bit of incest there, Disney, but thanks for that. And there's also a few other films. Wait, let me just think of something. Okay, maybe what's the Ariel film? The Little Mermaid, right? The Little Mermaid was also kind of, the guy was royalty, right? I don't know if he's just a very rich guy or royalty or something like that, but I think it's just a very rich guy. So all of these are like well-to-do people in general. Of course, Rapunzel was a little bit different, but these are movies like Aladdin is like a very big film out of these films, and Aladdin was very unique to me because the guy in this film is kind of the main character who we fall back on, unlike how the girls are the main character in the other films. And the guy being the main character is the one in this case very vulnerable because he is the street rat who has no hopes of living the dream that he wants to, just like everyone else in a vast kingdom like Agrabah. And he eventually falls in love with the princess, and they get to know each other, and they make a lot of mistakes in between, but eventually learn that true love will prevail if you learn to be yourself, which is the lesson of Aladdin, because Aladdin could be whatever he wanted with those three wishes, and he tries to use the three wishes to learn that. But at the end, he realizes that no matter how many wishes you make, being yourself is one of the most important things. And um, and Aladdin, being someone who is good in spirit, for him being himself is the best thing anyone could ask for. If you're evil from within and then you're told to be good, that's different. But in this case, because he was good by nature, it suits him. So that's my perception of the Disney film of Aladdin. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Now, as for this movie, um, I'm going to give a spoiler review. So once more, disclaimer: spoiler alert. And if this is your first time here, well, welcome, and welcome. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start off by saying that this movie was carried by Will Smith. You heard it right. Will Smith carried this movie. And that's not to say that the other actor and actresses and all didn't do their job. They did. The actor was fantastic. I believe it's Mena Masood. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Please help me out. I think it's Mena Masood. And then there's now Naomi Scott. Naomi Scott. They're both fantastic in their own roles because those were the main two roles, and the two of them have amazing voices. They're physically very talented. Mena Massoud with all of his parkour moves when they were chasing after him in the streets, those scenes were fantastic. Naomi Scott is truly captivating. She really looks like a princess when she's in her princessy attire, and when she's not, she still looks like a princess because my God, she is amazing to look at. And honestly, I think we will be seeing a lot more of her. Oh wow, okay, I guess you guys heard my little SMS tone there. That's Zordon calling me. So yeah, yeah, I hope we see more of Naomi Scott because she looks like she would be definitely a big asset to the film industry, being such a wonderful character, both personality-wise and beauty-wise. And she's so talented. She sang most of the songs, I believe, or all of it. I'm not sure if they had any songs that were given by voiced by someone else, but from what I checked, they were sung by the actors that we were looking at. So she was amazing. Mena Massoud definitely has his own amazing future. He's physically quite talented, the Parker and all that, as I mentioned. I believe he sings all of the songs as well. Um, and his personality is likable. Like you will be immediately comfortable with the character of Mena Massoud being Aladdin. Like the moment you meet him getting introduced in the streets as a kind of a thief and all, you would immediately believe that he is Aladdin in the get go. So that is very nice. Those two characters. But Will Smith, if Will Smith was not in this film, it would have been a bad film. That's what I have to say. The reason for that is because the dialogues given to the other characters were very, very generic. All right? Like they try to stick as close as possible to the original movie. And I believe for the most part they did. There was like a little bit of variations. Like at the start of the film, they showed like Will Smith kicking off as a human being singing a song to like his children. So this is he talks about a flashback of the time when he was a genie. So the movie of course ends just like the original Aladdin, where Aladdin frees Genie from his binds. So he's now free to live life as an ordinary man or whatever he wishes. But in the original Aladdin cartoon, Genie still retains his genie powers. He just doesn't have to abide by the rules of the lamp. Whereas in this Aladdin, he turns into a human being, losing his cuffs of being a genie. But it's unclear whether or not he still retains his genie powers. This is not shown or mentioned in the film, so I want to keep that as a note because there could be some theories to it. Because we all, like those of you who watched Aladdin 2, The Return of Jafar, you will know how important Genie's powers are in that film because Jafar is very powerful when he returns. So in this film, it's unclear. But we got a very similar ending to that. Another difference was, of course, the part where Aladdin tricks Genie to release him from the cave. In the original one, I believe he says something like, could you, like it's kind of like the way he puts the phrases out, the words. Whereas in this film, is more so to the rules of holding the lamp or something like that. I could be wrong. I haven't watched the original in a while, so I don't want to nitpick, but I'm just telling you that they try to have some little bit of differences here and there, which I truly appreciated. Because as for those of us who have seen the original Aladdin, we want something different to wow us, because now we are watching the humanized version of it. And for me, the best scenes, of course, this is a scene of Agrabah late in the evening. This is a scene of Will Smith when he's first released from the lamp. As you can see, there's an Aladdin in the bottom left there. That's his head there. This is Genie when he is in his human form. He stays in this form for the most part of the film. Whenever he's alone with Aladdin, he stays in his Genie form. So the transition is reasonably well done. I think it's the same as the cartoon, so that's quite well maintained. This is them during a party, a function. This is the view of Agrabah throughout the film in general. I felt that it was beautiful, the city of Agrabah, their design, and they kept it simplistic. They didn't overdo it, which was nice. But I felt that some of the scenes were too dark. Like this was a scene from when they had the song, A Whole New World, and a lot of these scenes, the flying scenes and all, felt really dark, even in cinema. Like you'd expect the the film to have like a reason. It's like, this is, look at this is the color in one scene, and this is the color in another scene, and I've taken this from the trailer. But mind you, in cinema, when you watch this scene for like a while, it is really dark. Like, to be honest, you can't see much. It's just like dark sand and soil and all that. Like, we get it, realistically it will be that dark because all they have is the moonlight. But in the cartoon, they made it bright because they could. And in the movie, it's not like they can't make it bright. You can be realistic and bright at the same time. There's like a way to gauge that, I believe. But they kept it very dark. And this is the Jafar that we got in the film, who I will get to in a bit. So anyway, the scenes of Aladdin escaping through the city was, I think, one of the better parts of the entire film. The scenes were captivating. They were high paced. They were well taken. The action was very believable, and you really enjoy those scenes. So I felt that those were done very much differently from the cartoon because it's a bit more realistic here, and you have to coordinate the scenes and all that, the fight scenes and what's not. So they were very well done. The choreography was really nice to look at. And then we have the scenes of Aladdin and Jasmine like meeting up and falling in love and all of these scenes. So for the most part, those scenes are nice to watch, right? They're cheeky, they're cheesy, they're very much romantic scenes. And I don't know if they were like holding back because they know kids are watching or not, but I felt that they held back quite a bit. Like, these are two real people with real faces, real human characters, and you have that chemistry between Mena Massoud and Naomi Scott. So I felt that they should have pushed it a little bit further to show these characters kind of physically interacting a little more, or being cheeky in the way they speak with each other. Like maybe like running, like a little bit more interaction when they run away from the guards that are chasing them, because it was fun. It was really fun to look at, but I felt that they didn't make the most out of it. It didn't feel very much like a romantic film. It was more like a film with romance in it. That's what it was like, rather than a romance movie. And don't get me wrong, I understand that this is not purely a romance movie. This is somewhat a um, it's kind of a romance plus action plus some thriller plus some mystical elements to it. It's a lot of different things, but the main, like the core element of Disney Aladdin is the fact that it's actually a love story, because the whole Aladdin movie revolves around what's his name, Aladdin trying to go after Jasmine, and that's the main part of it. Everything else is just kind of there in the background. Like, can you imagine a story of Aladdin without Jasmine? It won't work the same. But Aladdin without the genie would still work, because he's still going to fall in love with the princess one way or another. So that's kind of the core elements there. And then we get to the shots of Agrabah. Now, the shots of Agrabah are really nice to look at, but they're not very well detailed. We don't see the guards doing um, many useful things. Like, we see shots of guards standing in the background, walking around, like guarding the place, but there's not very much detail in the atmosphere of what the people of Agrabah do. We mostly see them on the streets selling stuff, just like we did in the cartoons. Um, but it would be nice if we saw Aladdin like actually interacting with the people on the streets, and like showing us who his group of friends are or his enemies are. But it's very much just him. He is all by himself. He has no friends except for his pet ape Abu. Like, I mean, in real life, it would not seem very logical for a person to be living in such a big city all by themselves. And for the fact that he's been stealing in Agrabah for so long means that mostly everyone in the streets would know him. Like, this is the kid who's been stealing from you for like the past 5 years. So it's surprising that he doesn't have anyone to close to, or anyone at all that knows him for the fact, because even when he gets kidnapped by Jafar and taken out of the city, there is like no strings attached to his relationship to Agrabah itself. There is absolutely nothing. significant for him there. He could be gone from Agrabah and no one would care in the first place. So that's pretty much the weight that Aladdin carried as a human being, in this film. And then we get Genie released. Will Smith comes out, and let me tell you that Will Smith really, really was the best part of the film. A lot of people, when I first read the reviews and I saw like comments and everything when they showed the trailer, they were like, "Oh, we don't like Will Smith. We only like Robin Williams. Will Smith's going to be so bad. He's just going to be acting as himself in every single movie again, and all that." But honestly, Will Smith was the best part of the film for me. He really carried the character as Genie, and with respect to Robin Williams, he did not make fun of any of Robin Williams' previous, traits or character development. He was his own genie, and he did everything he needed according to the script to be the best genie he could. And Will Smith is a likable personality by default, and with the character of Genie, you will definitely like him. And definitely, I mean, like, certainly never had a friend like him, trust me. That song lives up to its hopes. He definitely did justice to the character of Genie. And I felt that if it was not Will Smith, and it was someone else, I really don't know how I would have seen this film. Like, he was necessary, really necessary, to keep things attached, to bring in the high energy, the high intensity, because you have Aladdin and Jasmine, all these romancy types, and then you have Jafar, who's like kind of like this very creepy guy who goes around doing stuff. There's no real fun in the film until Genie comes in. And in the scenes where Genie comes in, man, let me tell you, it is fun. It is really, really fun to look at him. Everything he does is very much like the cartoon. He's fully animated. He's crazy. He does a lot of different unique things. He's always in a world of his own, which is fantastic. Which is the way Genie has been even in the cartoon, where he uses like references from the future and the past because he's like an omniscient being, right? So yeah, something like that. So yeah, a little more of just a bit of Genie. And then we have the character development of Aladdin and Jasmine is very much by the book, very much following the original story. So as I said, the only thing I wished for is a little bit more human interaction, because as you can see, this is flesh, blood, and bones in front of you as a character. You would want them to use a bit more of that, the pacing, the facial expressions, a little more of that to give a little bit more depth to the story. But I guess they kind of wanted to keep it very shallow, and it's fine. I mean, it's fine because they wanted to perhaps just keep going with the plot. So that's that. There's shots of Agrabah, more of that. Oh yeah, Jafar. Okay, okay. So let me tell you, Abu doesn't speak, right? He's a monkey. He ooks and ucks like a normal monkey. But then there is Jafar with Iago, and Iago speaks. He is a talking parrot, but he talks exactly like a parrot, meaning like if a parrot were to talk, that's how Iago talks, which was okay for me. I appreciate that. Um, I really had no issues with Iago being a complete parrot, except I wished we had a little bit more personality to Iago like we did in the cartoon. Because, Jafar being a sorcerer, like everyone knows he's an advisor to the king, but he's clearly a sorcerer. Like, who the heck walks around with a snake staff? And then later on, he wishes to be the most powerful sorcerer, which means he was a sorcerer by default. So I don't know if no one knows that he's a sorcerer or something like that, but they could have just made it a point to say that he is a sorcerer, and with his sorcery, he managed to make Iago talk. And that's one of the reasons why people respect him. Like he actually knows magic. But no, there's none of that. Iago is like a normal parrot that he just keeps with him. And I don't know why. Like, why would a man who seeks so much power, just keep a talking parrot? So that's the part that didn't add in that much weight. Because if you see the original cartoon, Jafar's Iago was very much a very good informer because Iago can clearly speak and he's very intelligent. compared to the one in this film. The one in this film just does one or two scouting things, but it's not really intelligent. He doesn't come up to Jafar and say like, "I saw this." He comes up with Jafar and then he walks around a bit. He like perches onto some stick and then he's like, "Intruder, intruder in the palace," or something like that. He says, and Jafar is like, "Intruder? Where? Who?" And then Iago continues to speak. Whereas in the cartoon, Iago would have been like, Jafar, I saw this guy walk into the palace, or something like that. It would have been completely different. Um, but whatever, that was the approach they agreed to, so it was fine. And then we have Jafar himself. This Jafar was a bit weak. His voice was funny, to say the least, which was okay. I get it. He has a small voice, it's fine. But in terms of being menacing, he was not really menacing. He was more like a friendly Jafar, if I may say so. Like he easily gets scared by the tiger that walks around. It's an animated tiger that the princess has, just like in the cartoon. And the tiger was fine. It didn't do much. It's just there in the background, which is okay. But Jafar is not really as menacing as he was in the cartoon, which is unfortunate, considering that he has killed many, many people in order to try to achieve what he has. He should be a terrifying guy and literally have little to no fear. But he doesn't seem to be that. It doesn't carry much of the weight of the villain character. And when you have a team like Aladdin, the Genie, and Jasmine, it's kind of interesting that he kind of doesn't get balanced out as a well-fledged villain. At the same time, there are scenes where he tries to kill Aladdin when Genie, for whatever reason, is in his lamp, and it doesn't make sense because Genie can be out of his lamp all the time. And he goes into his lamp, which puts Aladdin at risk. And Aladdin gets caught by Jafar during that time. So it's kind of like, why on earth? But at the same time, I guess they needed to do that because if Genie was around, he will just be too powerful. So, whatever. It's plot convenience, is what it is, right? So there was that. But Jafar himself, as a character overall, was not very strong. The final fight, the final scenes of Jafar trying to stop Aladdin and everything was not really nice. It was like watching a TV drama. The CGI was not that great. Jafar's abilities were very, I don't know, it was complicated. Like at one part, he can just teleport anyone anywhere and kill anyone instantly at any point in time because he wishes to be the most powerful sorcerer from Genie after capturing Genie's lamp. And then he just teleports away the guards instantly. But when Aladdin comes to take the lamp and Jasmine, he can't teleport them back. Like, I don't know why. And he instead decides to turn the parrot into a giant parrot to chase after them to give us like a cool parrot chase scene. And then, like, he suddenly gets pissed off and then he uses a tornado to bring Aladdin back. Like, what exactly can you do and can you not do? There's no scale of his power. It's more so, if I'm pissed, I'm stronger, and if I'm not so. Sounds like the Incredible Hulk, right? It's pretty much what it was. So there was that. And after those scenes, we come to like the climax scene where he wishes to be the most powerful Genie. That was cool to watch. Once again, the graphics are there; they do what they need to. But I felt Genie CGI and certain the tiger CGI and some of the monkey CGI as well. Some of the CGIs were not very clear to look at. You can clearly tell that they were CGI, and you can see some cartoonish elements to them. I expected a lot better from Disney, and I was a bit disappointed with the CGI. Like I expected flawless CGI from Disney, considering how well they've advanced in terms of their movie making. But their CGI was not as perfect as I thought it would be. But nonetheless, it did its job. But it felt like we went a few years back with the CGI. Anyway, the songs between the characters, all these songs were beautiful. A Whole New World was not that great for me because the scenes were too dark and the scenes were not as beautiful, as captivating as the actual original cartoon. Genie's Never Had a Friend Like Me was fantastic. That was an amazing song. The what do you call it? Silent. I won't be silenced or something song, which was sung by Naomi Scott. The song was fantastic, but the song's point was not really there. Like, why are you singing this song? It's saying that they will not silence you anymore, and then she just releases a grip from the two guards that are under Jafar's command. And then she just walks up and convinces all the guards that Jafar is not your king, even though Jafar wished to be the king, which means that you can just talk to the people and everything, will be undone. And that doesn't make sense at all because this is how Genie's magic works, all right? In one scene, Genie turns Aladdin into a prince, and Genie says that if I turn you into a prince, everyone will be convinced that you're a prince because that's how Genie magic works. But in the ending scene, when Jafar wishes to be the king of Agrabah, the Sultan of Agrabah, Genie turns him into the Sultan of Agrabah, but apparently no one is convinced that he's the Sultan of Agrabah, and everyone can, like the Princess Jasmine can just talk everyone, all the guards out of it, and say that, oh no, he's not really the Sultan, my dad is the Sultan, and everyone has a memory of, it perfectly. So it's kind of like the Genie magic, or rather the spell was wasted. Like the spell Jafar, used to become the king of Agrabah was an absolutely useless spell. The wish, absolutely useless wish, which didn't make any sense in the film. So there was that. And then she just talks the guards out of it to take on Jafar, and then Jafar wishes to be the most powerful sorcerer, fights back. Then finally he wishes to be the most powerful being, and thus becoming the most powerful genie, which traps him in his own very own lamp. And that's how they get rid of Jafar. And then Genie throws the lamp away, just like in the original cartoon. And then Aladdin releases Genie from his shackles, thus making him free. And he turns into human form, and we are unsure whether he still has his Genie powers or he is human from now on. So there were all of these different sequences and elements. The music gets a full score from me. The graphics not so. I wish the dialogues were a little bit better, but definitely this film was carried very much by Will Smith, who brought in most of the much needed joy and fun to the film, and the awkward facial expressions from Mena Massoud and all that was very much like. He gives these awkward expressions when Genie does funny things to him. And as awkward as they can be, I felt that if the Genie was not a very strong character, the entire scene would have been awkward. But because Genie carried it so well, the scenes were well played through. And yep, that's the general idea of it. There are some finer plot details which are not really necessary. I'm just gonna go ahead and write my rating over here for this film. Okay, don't freak out. Don't freak out. All right, there you go. It's a 5 out of 10 film. It's a half and half, 50-50. Nothing great about this film. It's a decent movie. It's literally in an in-betweener. You can watch this movie on TV at any point in time. If you want to go to the cinema to watch it, go ahead. It's a watchable movie. It's a fun movie. It's definitely a nostalgic movie for those of you who have watched the original Aladdin, but it doesn't beat the original Aladdin by any means. Will Smith is definitely a good genie. He is his very own genie, and in comparison to Robin Williams, I would say that they are equal. I would not say that Robin Williams is that great of a genie just because he was the first to do it. And at the same time, just because Will Smith was second, I would not say that he was, better or worse. I felt that he did his part really well, just as Robin Williams did his own part. But because we got to see a lot more of Will Smith's facial expressions and charisma here, I felt that he, got a good deal of being Genie. And as for Mena Massoud's character, he did really well. So did um, Naomi Scott as Jasmine. But these two characters alone could not carry the romance of the film. They had a lot of supporting cast that tried their best to help, but were absolutely useless. The Sultan was not very good. The handmaiden character was not very good. They were just pretty much there full time for comic relief, and that was it. And Genie really needed to do most of the action in this film. Jafar as well was very weak. I wish they really had a better villain. The CGI was so-so, not really that great. So yeah, the music gets full points from me. Nothing much for creativity because you've seen most of it in the original one. This one did really add many new elements. It added like one or two little things which are not really that great. It definitely gets points for action because it is a lot more realistic and action packed. Um, and that's pretty much it from me. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this film. Let me know if you guys thought it was amazing, better than the original. Let me know if you guys think that no, it is way worse. Whatever it is, let me know. I would be glad to hear what you guys think. And hopefully, we see less of Disney remaking films and more of Disney making films because I'm honestly not really a fan of remaking great films. If you want to make a sequel or you want to make a prequel, yeah, okay, you can go ahead. But by remaking original films that were already good, you're kind of messing up. You're basically, it's so obvious that they're just doing it for money. They know people are just going to watch it because they want to feel nostalgic about it. But honestly, if you were to give me a like a recolored or redefined version of the original Aladdin, I would gladly just watch that. You want to extend the animation cartoon you made in that extended version of it? Yeah, go ahead. I would watch that. Compared to this, any day. And similarly, I hope the Lion King film doesn't disappoint in the way this film did. So I don't know. I really, really don't know. But yep, that's about it from me. Thanks for watching. Adios.